It's no secret that Baki the Grappler is a world chock full of extremely powerful and violent characters. Each of these muscular behemoths is a nightmare to behold, and honestly, they seem far too intense for normal conversations. However, there's one character that stands far above the others when it comes to sheer intimidation, and even though he's a lifelong criminal, we can't help but feel respect for the guy. As you might have guessed by now, we're talking about Kaoru Hanayama, and in this marvelous video, we'll be diving deep into the life of this ferocious Yakuza. Who is Kaoru Hanayama, and what is his origin? For Kaoru Hanayama, violence isn't just something he chooses, it's his way of life. His father, Keizo, was a respected Yakuza boss who led the Hanayama group. While Keizo wasn't exactly a bad guy, he was still a gangster through and through, living by the Yakuza code. He raised Kaoru to embody strength, fierceness, and honor, traits essential for commanding respect in their world. Kaoru's insane physical strength was obvious from a young age. A family friend once said the kid's strength was way beyond most trained adults. Keizo noticed it too, but tragically he didn't live long enough to train his son. The night of Keizu's death was intense. Kaoru's mom tried to stop Keizo from leaving the house, but he smacked her to get out of the way. Of course, this angered the young Kaoru so much that he grasped his father's arm with unbelievable force. Keizo knew that his son's strength was equal to his own and encouraged the boy to tighten his grip even further. Kaoru was able to exert so much pressure that his father's arm literally exploded, which assured Keizo that Kaoru would be the perfect successor to the Hanayama group. After Keizo's death in the gang war, his close friend Kizaki took over as the caretaker for both the Hanayama group and Kaoru's family. Kizaki was also in charge of teaching the young Hanayama about life in the Yakuza, and, as expected, Kaoru turned out to have a real knack for the criminal lifestyle. He quickly rose through the ranks and soon assumed his role as the gang's leader. As a second-generation successor to the Hanayama group, Kaoru was also inked with an ancestral tattoo representing the Standing Man during this time. Kaoru was 15 when he received the tattoo from a traditional artist named Horitatsu, but for some reason he remained unsatisfied with the work done by the man. He then leaves the artist without any of his fellow members knowing, which leads Kizaki to suffer something of a panic attack. When the Hanayama group begins tracing their leader, they discover that he has been spotted in an enemy gang's territory. This is the same Yakuza group that killed Kaoru's father, so I guess their only reason for him to be visiting is vengeance. When Kizaki and the group finally get to their enemy's location, they find the entire compound littered with the battered bodies of their foes. When they finally get to Kaoru, they find that he has already defeated the enemy boss, but is now covered with scars running throughout his body. Even the tattoo on his back is marked with long, meandering scars, and somehow, Kaoru seems finally content with his Standing Man. He returns to the tattoo artist and reveals his perfected tattoo, and the artist is finally forced to give in to Kaoru's unbelievable strength. To be honest, it really doesn't get any more badass than that. How does Hanayama look? Even if you were trying really hard, it would still be next to impossible to ignore Kaoru if he crossed you on the street. After all, he's a giant of a man with perfectly toned muscles building on his clothes. His hair is short and black, while his face is deeply scarred with numerous scars running across it. These scars are present all over his body as well, and he sports a traditional Yakuza tattoo on his back. This tattoo is known as the Standing Man and is bestowed upon each and every member of the Hanayama family after they come of age. His scarred flesh closely resembles an intricate jigsaw and is a clear testament to this man's toughness. When he's not fighting, Kaoru wears a pair of glasses that actually look pretty strange on his bulky persona. He's also fond of wearing white suits, which he often styles with blue undershirts and white ties. He prefers to fight almost completely naked with nothing but a loincloth around his waist, as he wishes to intimidate his opponent with the horrifying scars marking his body. During one of the bloodiest encounters in the entire series, he took on the convict Spec, who managed to place a handful of bullets into Hanayama's face. Then he forced Hanayama's jaw shut, leading to a small explosion inside his mouth. This left Kaoru with two gaping holes on both sides of his face, which clearly revealed the jaw muscles inside. Despite this grievous injury, Kaoru was still able to win the battle, though he's now forced to wear a face mask most of the time. His appearance remained mostly unchanged during the 5-year time skip, and it's pretty likely that he attained his physical peak at the age of 19, after which he mostly stopped developing. What shapes Hanayama's personality? Though Hanayama is just 19 years old, he's still one of the most stoic and measured individuals you'll ever encounter. He's the kind of man who would rather die happily than fall in battle. This is actually an ancestral code of conduct that was passed down through their family for many generations. The man once ate 3 full strikes from the prodigal Katsumi Orochi and still chose not to fall down. Hanayama also prefers to let his fists do the talking and only speaks when especially necessary. Series protagonist Baki looks at Kaoru like an elder brother and usually seeks his advice whenever he needs reassurance. Initially, Kaoru saw Baki as a way to get Yujiro Hanma's attention. The two indulged in a couple of extremely violent battles, but ended up becoming really good friends over the years. Baki isn't the only person Hanayama is affectionate towards, and he also has a special respect for fighters like Chiharu Shiba, who exhibit unique fighting styles. Kizaki still remains Hanayama's right-hand man in the gangster life, and the two share a quiet, stoic friendship. The most important person in Hanayama's life is undoubtedly his mother, and he often visits her at the hospital due to her terminal cancer. Though it's pretty easy to mistake Hanayama for a brawny, bloodthirsty gangster, he's actually a very intelligent individual under his taut facade. He can be extremely reckless at times and once attacked the ogre Yujiro even after being completely exhausted from his previous battle. He has an extremely notorious reputation and commands respect from everyone, including the national police. The one aspect of life that Hanayama can't understand is actually romance. During his high school years, a girl named Seiri Sugimura confessed his love for the young gangster. In response, Hanayama just unzipped his pants and asked her if she was ready to bear his child. He then proceeded to kiss the girl with such force that her lips swelled up. Understandably, this incident freaked the girl out and she ran away in fear. However, given all his qualities, we're sure that our gangster extraordinaire will eventually find his one true love. How was Hanayama's fighting style developed? Well, we're finally at the fighting part of it all. Hanayama is, of course, a very powerful gangster with ungodly physical strength and endurance. Thus, his fighting style relies a lot on his raw physical power and explosive grip. Once this man grabs hold of your limb, he doesn't let go until the whole thing just bursts open due to all the built-up pressure. Even as a child, Kaoru possessed enough physical strength to tear an entire deck of cards with his fingers and snap his grandfather's finger when he was just an infant. He's what you might call a natural talent, as he hasn't spent all his life in training like many of his fellow fighters. However, he began training regularly, eventually being overcome with an innate desire to get even better. Pickle, the prehistoric man, once compared Hanayama's brute strength to that of a triceratops, and the man has literally fought a great white shark with his bare hands. He won this encounter by literally crushing the beast's brain to a pulp. He's the first human that Pickle actually sees as a threat, and even Yujiro recognizes Hanayama's inherent talent after he gives the ogre a bloody nose. What makes Kaoru especially deadly is his impeccably high pain tolerance and his incredibly durable body. He once tanked hits from a guy whose punches were enough to cause extensive damage to the Statue of Liberty. Also, if you shoot him with a gun, the man will just walk off as bullets seem useless against him. Hanayama is a fearless brawler who likes to take an enemy's attacks head-on and never tries to parry incoming attacks. Hanayama's greatest weakness is his relatively slow speed, which makes him especially vulnerable to blitz attacks. His attacks rely more on toughness and power than technique, thus it's possible to evade his blows if you're just fast enough. Though Kaoru is one of the toughest characters in the entire series, he's still pretty vulnerable to attacks on his stomach, as we saw during his battle with the Ronin, Miyamoto Musashi. Yeah, I agree that the man has some weaknesses, but that doesn't make him any less intimidating. What is the vice grip technique? This is a technique that can only be used by individuals like Hanayama who possess ungodly grip strength. In order to execute this technique, Kaoru grabs hold of his opponent's body parts and then puts so much pressure on it that the part literally explodes due to blood restriction. This move is especially useful for maiming your opponents and rendering their limbs useless. We first saw this move in use against Yuri Tchaikovsky, and since then, it's become a regular part of Kaoru's arsenal. Though the vice grip is among the scariest moves in the entire series, it's been rendered ineffective by characters like Yujiro and Baki, who have exceptionally high pain tolerance. What is the Yakuza Punch? The Yakuza Punch is considered to be Kaoru's primary offensive technique and has gained notoriety for its sheer destructive force. This is basically a highly destructive blow that combines all of Kaoru's most powerful attributes together. It is said to use its grip, body weight, and speed to create so much force that it can easily blow an opponent through concrete. To execute this move, Kaoru assumes the stance of a baseball pitcher in order to maximize the force generated by his body. He first used this technique against Tommy Carbine in the first series, and it has been used against a number of different characters since then. Though most other fighters will easily crumble when facing the outrageous destructive power of this move, some of the more powerful characters have managed to withstand it. For example, when Kaoru used this move against Yujiro, all it did was give the ogre a bloody nose. However, if you ever see Kaoru charging up to unleash the Yakuza Punch, it's better to just flee. What other techniques does Hanayama use? Headbutt. This is one of the simpler moves in Kaoru's arsenal and works just as advertised. Though this is just a headbutt, it can be extremely lethal in the hands of someone as powerful as Kaoru. In order to execute this move, Kaoru leverages the ungodly strength in his neck to deliver a blow using his temple. This is a move that relies on brute strength, and thus, it's perfectly suited for a monster like Kaoru Hanayama. Roll kick. This is a move that Kaoru used just once against Katsumi Orochi during the Maximum Tournament arc. It consists of taking a leap to stand on top of the enemy, which is then followed by a devastating drop spin kick that strikes the opponent down. Iron Claw. This is another move that is tailor-made to leverage Kaoru's innate physical strength and ferocious grip. While using this technique, the user grasps the opponent's left hand tightly with his right hand, then the user grabs the opponent's face with their left hand and tackles them into the ground. This move generates enough force to crush an opponent's face into the ground. Though this move can often prove deadly, it leaves the opponent's right hand free, which can then be used to perform counterattacks. What key battles define Hanayama's strength? Well, we can't really talk about a Baki character without delving into all the fights they've participated in over the years. The first character we saw Kaoru fight was an enemy Yakuza leader named Tommy Carbine, who represented the Yajima group. Hanayama was so assured of his victory during this period that he allowed Tommy to punch him incessantly, and none of the punches were able to do any damage in the end. In the final stages of the battle, the gangster would take Tommy down pretty easily with a single devastating blow. Hanayama would then set his sights on Baki, as he was sure that defeating the ogre's son would get Yujiro's attention. When Baki returned from the mountains, Hanayama injured Yuri Tchaikovsky, a professional boxer who also happened to be Baki's sparring partner. During the battle with Yuri, Hanayama was bombarded with an endless number of brutal punches, but the exceedingly durable Hanayama was able to easily tank each and every hit. Hanayama was able to destroy Yuri with ease and even destroyed the boxer's hand with his vice grip. Yuri's defeat lured Baki into the Yakuza's office, and the two great fighters would have a series of altercations that would culminate in a fight at the nightclub. Here, they would land multiple heavy blows on each other, and Hanayama would even hurt Baki using his ferocious vice grip. Despite this, Hanayama pronounces Baki as the winner in the end. After this, Hanayama would end up becoming one of Baki's closest friends, and the friendship between the two combatants continues to this day. Hanayama was also one of the participants at the Maximum Tournament, where he would take on Bunoshin Inagi, who was a renowned master specializing in a traditional martial art named Nihon Kempo. Hanayama's battle with Bunoshin was a true test of strength for both competitors. Though Bunoshin was one of the toughest fights of Hanayama's career, he would eventually overwhelm the Kenpo master, and he would die in this battle due to spinal injuries. Other than this, Hanayama has also fought numerous other masters like Katsumi Orochi and Shiharu Shiba, who managed to defeat the ferocious gangster using superior techniques. Though Hanayama has also been a part of many other battles, we'd highly recommend you check those out for yourself. Marvelous verdict! Hanayama's story proves that he's definitely among the top fighters in the Baki saga. Though he's not completely invincible, the man is still growing, and we're certain that he'll make an astounding comeback in the future. Unfortunately, that's it for now, but what other characters from the Baki-verse would you like us to cover next? Let us know in the comments section down below, and don't forget to hit the like and subscribe buttons to stay up to date with all our most marvelous content. This is Wizard Wheezy signing off for now, but we'll catch you in the next one pretty soon.